Let's talk about the song Greensleeves. First thing to note, it's in 3/4, 3/4 notes per measure. Before you start playing to the song, I would advise just practicing playing a jazz feel in 3. And there's various ways you can do it. As you notice, it says swing waltz. Waltz means a dance in 3. So start by just practicing this. Now there's many different ways you can play in 3/4 swing. The hi-hat, first of all, you could go 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, or 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, which is what the drummer does on this track. The ride, you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. And any varying combination of that will do. But for this song and this arrangement, just try this. That's what the drummer on the track is doing, and they're doing a great job. First thing to know, the first line, it's a 2-measure pattern. And so what I would do is I would do this. They wrote that because if you listen to the track, it's a 2-measure pattern. And also, it reminds me of the time feel of playing in 2. Remember, so when you're playing 4/4, jazz, 1, 2, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, there's what's known as a walking bass line. In 4/4, when you play in the time feel of 2, or playing with the 2 feel, 1, 2, boom, 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 it's kind of broken up. This, to me, seems a little similar, this 2-measure pattern at the beginning of the song. So it's not a walking bass line. So you want to listen for that, and listen for the melody. Boom, ba ba da da da, boom, ba ba da da da. Listen to that melody in there, and try and cop some of what's going on with there, with your hi-hat, your snare, and your ride. So first line, 2-measure pattern. Second line, starting at 5, measure 5, it's a 2-measure pattern also. Then it crescendos a little into 13, same thing. Actually, crescendos and then crescendos to a mezzo piano. So it starts soft at the beginning of the song, but then crescendos to a mezzo piano and measure 13, still keeping that 2-measure pattern. Then there's a break on 20. Now, on measure 19, going into 20, there's a rhythm. 1, 2, and 3, 1. Right? But if you listen to the track, beat 3 is not played. 1, 2, and 3, 1. When in doubt, when reading a chart and listening to the band, listen to the band. That's what I do. So it sounds like this. 19, this is one way to orchestrate it. Measure 19. 1, 2, and 3, 1. Notice I had a tight stop on beat 1 of measure 20 because it's a marcato, or some people call it a rooftop, that arrow that's pointing up and down. Measure 21, there's no longer a 2-measure pattern, it's a 1-measure pattern. Sounds very similar to the 2-measure pattern, it's just the second measure. But what's going on here is now the bass player is playing a walking bass line. Boom, 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 1, 2, 3, boom, 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 boom. Here, you're a little more free, but you need to still keep that pulse going. It's a pulse in 3, but it's still a pulse. So I will change up the pattern a little. I won't be so tied to the 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3 on the hi-hat. Sometimes I'll just play 2, beat 2. On the ride, I'll be a little more free as well. Yet I'm still keeping that quarter note pulse in 3. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, because that's what the bass player is doing. So moving on to, so you're going to play 21 through 35 with this walking bass line in 3. And then again at 35 to 36, they have that break. There's a hit on the and a 2, and then on beat 1, it's a tight stop. So be aware of that, and also, again, listen to the band and what they're doing at that measure, and I think you'll understand what I mean by hitting the and of 2 and not 3, which is what's written. So 37, they go back to this 2-measure pattern. 41, there's a 2-measure pattern, and it's repeated. So it's 4 measures, right? So 41, the hit on the and of 2, a tight hit. Notice how I orchestrated it with the snare. Beat 42, or measure 42, there's a dotted quarter note. I hit that with a bass drum. The and of 2, again on measure 42, I hit it with a snare. You can orchestrate it different ways. I'm just going off of a simple way of orchestrating, meaning if it's a short note, 8th note, or a note with a marcato, or a rooftop over it, I usually hit the snare. If it's a longer note, like a dotted quarter note, I would accent it with the bass drum, because the bass drum is just a little longer sounding than a snare drum. Then we go to 45, comes back down to mezzo piano with this 2-measure pattern, 45, repeating. Then in 52, I think, it crescendos to 53, up to mezzo forte. Continuing this 2-measure pattern, there's a break with no hits before it, just to stop on 60. Now, on 61, there is a figure, and you want to listen to that figure. So if I were to play that rhythmically, 1 and 2 and 3 and 1, 2, 3, 1, 2 and 3, 1. Boo-da, ba, ba-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo, ba. That's the rhythm. Now, if you notice a little more, I'm going to go a little more deeper in detail to this. It says ENS right next to it, E-N-S dot, which is ensemble. A lot of the horn section is going to be playing it. Above those notes, you probably know this, but the line means it's a longer note. The rooftop or marcato means it's a short note, right? So if I were to sing this, what they're trying to do there is they're trying to tell you exactly what the horns are doing and how they're sounding when they're doing it. So the line would be a longer note. So I'm going to sing this according to what is written here. Boo-da, ba, ba-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo, ba. Boo-da, long, short. So that line, again, means long. Rooftop means short. And then we play time at 65, 66, 67, 68, there's a break, or there's a figure. 1, 2, and 3, 1. Boo, boo, bop, right? Then again at 69, it repeats that 4-measure phrase. Boo, da, boo, boo, doo, 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 da. You could orchestrate this many ways. That kind of sounded square to me. So sometimes I wouldn't play every single note. Again, listening to the band, that's the most important thing. Different ways to orchestrate it. Still sounds kind of square to me if I were to hit every note. So something like that feels good to me. You may want to orchestrate a little differently yourself, and it may feel better to play what you think would sound better. Experiment with it. Try phrasing it different ways. Still keeping in mind that melody, or that figure, boo-da-bop-ba-da-da-da-boo-boo-bop. That's what it sounds like. Don't forget that. That's what you want to go off in terms of knowing how to orchestrate it. Okay, so 75, ba-ba-doo-bop. Again, listening to the band, ba-ba-bop. Right? 77, again, continues that 2-measure pattern. Now, we get to the 3rd line down, starts on measure 81. It starts that 2-measure phrase, that ensemble figure, right? 1, 2, and 3, 1, 2, and 3. You could also do... I may have played that wrong, but notice 1, 2, and 3, 1, 2, and 3. Listen to what the horns are doing. Also, it starts a little softer, and what it does throughout this whole 3rd line on the 2nd page, it crescendos. And notice what the drummer's doing. The drummer's getting more busy. He's playing those figures, but he's also starting to fill around them, and he's creating this tension and creating this tension. There's a term in music, it's called tension and release. You create all this tension, and then you release it. And it's an emotion that's kind of brought up or created through the band, and it's pretty cool. So I think that's what they're doing there. He or whoever the drummer is, crescendo from 81, they're mezzo forte at 81, 84 to 85, they crescendo to a forte, and then finally at 88 they crescendo to fortissimo. So they're gradually crescendoing and getting more busy, but still playing those hits. Now at the very end of line 3, there is a C. You probably know what that means. That means common time, 4/4, 4 quarter notes per measure. So the time signature has changed on the 4th line down at measure 89. So something to be aware of. Instead of playing 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, you're going to go 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. Got to be aware of that. So 89 goes to 4/4. There's this figure at 96. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Ba-do, ba, ba, ba. Here's how you could play it. Again, different ways you could orchestrate that. Moving on to 104, another figure. 1 and 2, 3 and 4 and. Again, the line and the lines on top of those notes. Boo-da, boo-da, bow is how the horns are sounding. So you want to do something that will complement that. That's one way. Maybe another way. Let's see here. Again, many different ways to orchestrate it. Okay. 105, solo section. And a D crescendos to mezzo forte. Now, there's these hits, 106 and 107. Beat 4, 1, the end of 4. I noticed that I don't think the drummer really accents those full out. So, something to think about. You can do that. Different ways to orchestrate it. Again, experiment with it and listen to the band. Okay, 110. Hits, measure 110. Hits on the and of 3 and the and of 4. And this continues. Think of this as almost a phrase. I think of a musical sentence that's 3 measures long. So 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 1, 2, and 3, 4, and 1, 2, and 3, 4. So I'll just play it. Let's see. Different ways to orchestrate it. I just chose to do it that way. Also, it crescendos into 113. Again, with a dotted quarter note on beat 1 and an 8th note on the and 2. 1, 2, 3, 4. I continued on through 114. Okay, 116. Catch that figure on 117. 1, 2, 1, 2, and 3, 4, and. Again, different ways to orchestrate it. Listen to the band. You may choose not to play any of that. It's up to you, but you want, again, the goal is to make it sound musical and support the band and complement what the horns are doing in this section. Okay, comes to a big section here. 121. There's some figures here. So I'll click them out. 1, 2, 3, 4. Ba, boo, da, ba, 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 ba. First ending. Ba, 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 boo, da, ba, 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 ba. Right? So, again, listen to the band. What a lot of drummers and musicians will do is they'll memorize the sections. They'll memorize what that horn section is like. So. I just played those 8 measures from 121 through 128. Then they repeat, they do it again, and then they take the second ending. Now on the second ending, the second measure of the second ending, 130, there's a hit on the end of 1 and 3. 1 and 2, 3. And then repeat that, again, going to the third page, on the top line, the first measure, which is 131, 1 and 2, 3, just like the measure before, right? And then 132, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2, 3, 4. Ba, boo, da, ba. Again, I can sing that, and I can get fairly close to what the horns are sounding like because they wrote it out, the rhythms out, and on top of those notes, they put long and short and the rooftop or the marcato. So, at measure 133 goes back to 3-4. That 2-measure pattern, right? Decrescendos a little. And then notice at 138 comes down softer. Play that, you play all the way. Actually, and then you crescendo back to 146, still playing that 2-measure pattern. 153 looks like there's a break. Pardon me. And then 154, again, it repeats that horn line that started on 61. Boo da ba ba da ba ba boo boo ba. Remember that? Be aware of that and how you would orchestrate it. 160, 1, 2, and 3, 1. Right? Then again, it repeats that phrase again. Boo da ba ba doo 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 da. Okay? Time on 166, 167, 168, 1 and 2, 1, 2, and 3, 1. Break. 170. 170, the rhythm's a little different here. 1, 2, 3, 1, and 2, 3, 1, and 2, and 3, 1. Be aware, that's a little different from what they've done it before. 176, 1, 2, and 3, 1. 178, decrescendos to 178. 182, 1, 2, and 3, 1, 2, and 3. Remember that rhythm? And then it repeats that. 1, 2, and 3, 1, 2, and 3, right? And then finally, it's crescendoing to the finale of the song, 188 and 189. 1, 2, 3, pop. Notice it's got, on top of those 3 quarter notes that are fortissimo on measure 188, there's a line and an accent. Not rooftop, but an accent. So you're playing those long and loud. Ba, 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 ba. The bottom line, listen. Listen to the band a lot. Listen to what the drummer's doing. Listen to what the horns are doing. Listen to how they're interacting. Practice it over and over and over again. There's a type of feel there within that playing 3-4 that is a little different than playing, obviously, in 4-4. So I hope this helps. Take care.